Okay, so now we're going to switch tactics a bit here, and God is going to be speaking to the children to rebuke their mother. And this is, again, the physical example here is of, okay, so Hosea stands for God, Gomer stands for Israel, and the children stand for the Israelites, the individual Israelites. And so by talking to the children to rebuke their mother, he's talking to the Israelites to rebuke their leaders, Israel, the nation. Rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Now remember, adultery, unfaithfulness was the defining conditions for divorce. That's even in the New Testament, Jesus will say that's what allows you to have a legal divorce, is if your partner is unfaithful. If your wife is unfaithful, women themselves couldn't actually file for divorce at this point in time. But it's like if your wife is unfaithful, you can put her away legally. You can get rid of her. So the example here is that Gomer, Hosea. I don't know if Hosea actually divorced Gomer or not. There definitely was a separation, as we're going to read about in chapter 3. I'm not clear on whether or not Hosea actually divorced her and then got her again, or she ran off. I'm not clear on that. But I mean, if the example is, I don't know. I mean, God's basically saying here He's ready to divorce Israel, but He's going to call them back again afterwards. So anyway, so the adultery has created an end to the marriage relationship. So rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the adulterous look from her face, and the unfaithfulness from between her breasts. Otherwise I will strip her naked, and make her as bare as on the day she was born. I will make her like a desert, turn her into a parched land, and slay her with thirst. I will not show my love to her children, because they are the children of adultery. Their mother has been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. She said, now again, this is talking mainly about Israel here, although we're using Gomer as kind of like the example for Israel. She said, I will go after my lovers, who gave me my food and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. Therefore, I, God, he's speaking again here, I will block her path with thorn bushes. I will wall her in so that she cannot find her way. He's not going to let her go back to them. She will chase after her lovers, but she will not catch them. She will look for them, but she will not find them. Then she will say, I will go back to my husband as at first, for I was better off then than I am now. She has not acknowledged that I was the one who gave her the grain, the new wine, and the oil. So she was talking about wanting to go after these lovers to give her this stuff, not realizing that the real source of these things was from God, who lavished on her the silver and the gold which they used for Baal, their idolatry, their idol worship. Therefore I will take away my grain when it ripens, my new wine when it is ready. I will take back my wool and my linen, intended to cover her nakedness. I'm going to take these things away. I gave them to her to begin with. She didn't appreciate them. She used them for other gods. She ran away with idols. She was unfaithful to me, so I'm just going to take them away. So now I will expose her lewdness before the eyes of her lovers. No one will take her out of my hands. I will stop all her celebrations, her yearly festivals, her new moons, her Sabbath days, all her appointed feasts. So they were apparently still doing these things. We read about this in Amos. We're going to read about it in Hosea. To a certain degree, now they had their entire, when Jeroboam the first king of the northern kingdom of Israel after the split, when he took over, he set up an alternate worship system. He put these golden calves in Bethel in the south and Dan in the north. He even established his own priesthood and his own religious calendar. And it appears as though, here we are 200 years later, it appears as though the Israelites have been faithfully following whatever observances they had set up at that time, in the 920s BC, after the kingdom split. That would have been about 200 years ago. And it appears that since then, they've been following these things pretty faithfully. We read about it in Amos, read about it. They seem to even like doing it. They seem to like their celebrations. I'm not entirely certain whether in practice these were legitimate Torah celebrations or not. God did give them a list of things he wanted them to do, a list of feasts he wanted them to have every year and all that. Okay, we read about that in the works of Moses. But we also read that Jeroboam apparently set up his own religious calendar. So I'm not clear on whether or not they're following the actual Torah festivals or whatever alternate customs Jeroboam introduced. They may have thought that they were following the Torah festivals, but were actually doing whatever. At any rate, it seems like they were doing these things. They probably liked doing it. I mean, these were feasts, okay? They probably liked following these things because they were having a good time. But they were not honoring God with them. Whether that's because they were made up, they were their own religious traditions that Jeroboam introduced or something along those lines, or they were doing it with the wrong heart. I mean, they were worshiping the Baals. I mean, I'm not really clear, but they were doing all these things. But they're not going to be able to do them anymore. Apparently they like doing them too. Apparently they enjoy doing them. So they're not going to be able to do them anymore. I will ruin her vines and her fig trees, which she said were her pay from her lovers. I will make them a thicket, and wild animals will devour them. I will punish her for the days she burned incense to the Baals. And that really means to pray. When you burn incense, that really means to pray. Because you burned incense when you pray at the temple, right towards the altar. She decked herself with rings and jewelry, and went after her lovers. Me she forgot, so declares the Lord. Therefore, I am going to allure her. So he's going to treat her, I wouldn't necessarily say harshly. He's going to treat her as she deserves. He's going to take away the things he gave her. You know, the nice things that she thought were from these lovers. He's going to take those away. She's not going to have them anymore. She's going to be destitute because of that. But now he's going to make overtures to her. Now he's going to try to woo her back to him again. Therefore, I am going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards, and will make the valley of Achor a door of hope. The valley of Achor, it says down here, Achor means trouble. And that goes back to the days in Joshua when they were taking the land for the first time, way back at the very beginning when they first fought their first battle there of Jericho. And they had this guy named Achan who defied the orders not to take any of the plunder for himself. And he did take some of the plunder for himself. And then they had trouble. And then in their next battle against Ai, they suffered casualties and were defeated because there was sin in the camp. So they had to figure out where that sin was coming from and root it out. That was in Joshua 6 and 7. And the specific verses here at the end of Joshua 7, after they figured out that Achan was the guy. Chapter 7, verse 24. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold wedge, that's the stuff that he had taken for himself that he was not supposed to, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys, and sheep, his tent, and all that he had, to the valley of Achor. Joshua said, Why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. And all Israel stoned him, and after they had stoned the rest, they burned them. Over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger, and they go on to defeat Ai next. Therefore that place has been called the Valley of Achor ever since. So trouble. So he's going to make the Valley of Achor a door of hope. Then she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the days she came up out of Egypt. Remember how when they left Egypt, they went out triumphant? They went out of Egypt that day they left Egypt, they went out triumphant. And that day, declares the Lord, you will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master or my Baal. The word for husband and Baal The word for husband and master is the same, Baal, or however you pronounce it. So they're going to use the proper intimate term of husband rather than the more impersonal and distant term of master. In that day I'll make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and the birds of the air and the creatures that move along the ground. Bow and sword and battle I will abolish from the land, so that all may lie down in safety. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you in righteousness and justice, in love and compassion. I will betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord. So he's going to divorce them. He's going to call them back again after the divorce. In that day I will respond, declares the Lord. I will respond to the skies, and they will respond to the earth, means they're going to rain. And the earth will respond to the grain, the new wine, and the oil. And they will respond to Jezreel, it means he's plants. In this case, it's talking about scattering seed to grow in the ground. I will plant her for myself in the land. I will show my love to the one I called not my love. I will say to those called not my people, you are my people. And they will say, you are my God. So we had a divorce. We had these children of unfaithfulness. We called them not loved and not mine. But we're going to reverse that eventually. We're going to call them back. We're going to reinstitute this marriage. We're going to start it again, and we're going to call them loved and mine again. And this is graphically illustrated with Hosea's reconciliation with Gomer. I don't know how much longer after this is taking place. Apparently Gomer had these 3 children. The first one apparently was Hosea's son. And the next 2 were not. The next 2, not loved and not mine, were children of unfaithfulness. Who knows who their fathers were. And that apparently caused a breach between Hosea and Gomer. If nothing else had before, that did, apparently. Hosea may have divorced her legally. I'm not clear. Somehow or another, she left him. She went out from him. She went around. And now he's going to, whether he divorced her legally or not, he is now called to get her back. The Lord said to me, go, show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another and is an adulteress. I don't know who this other guy was. Probably all kinds of guys. Who knows? Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes. These were some special types of cakes that they made that probably were to facilitate their fertility rites. You have to keep in mind, okay, a lot of this pagan worship system that they followed, the Canaanite religions that were in the land when they got there, and other nations around them, a lot of them involved sanctioned sex, okay? These worship, the Baals and the Asherahs. We had the Baals that were the male gods. A lot of times they were accompanied by Asherahs, the female gods. And you would go up to these high places, and you would have sex. Okay, they would have these male and female shrine prostitutes there, and your act of worship was to present your offering and then have sex. And these sacred raisin cakes apparently were considered to be some kind of aphrodisiac to increase fertility. That's why it was so appealing. That's why these other worship systems, the God's worship system, did not involve sanctioned sex. In fact, a lot of his customs and a lot of your purification rituals involve cleaning yourself and abstaining from sex for a period of time. Doesn't mean that sex itself is bad, okay? But it does mean that a large part of the Israelite worship system involved purifying yourself and cleaning yourself, which involved abstaining from sex for a period of time. So God's worship system did not include sanctioned sex. Well, as human beings have repeatedly shown all throughout the centuries, all throughout the millennia, we like sex. And if we have a worship system that involves a sanctioned sex, we're going to choose that. Okay? We're going to choose that nearly every time. We're no different today in the 21st century. As confused and messed up as we are, and we are totally confused and terribly messed up. But we're not doing anything differently at the Canaanites in the year 2000 BC that weren't doing. Okay? We like sanctioning our sex. We like thinking that we're doing things that are okay with whatever God's rule of the land. And that's not any different now than it was 4,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, or 2,500 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or whatever, or 100 years ago. Okay, like that's just how we are. There's nothing progressive about it. That's how human beings are. So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver. So he's going out to get her. Apparently, she's for sale. I don't know exactly what this means. Did she sell herself into slavery? Is she being sold as a slave by a master? Did the man that she ran off with enslave her? I don't know. I really don't know. There's just not enough information given here. All we know is that he bought her. Somehow, somewhere, from somebody, for some reason. He must have known where she was, apparently, or at least he found out. I guess she ran off from him, but either he knew where she was or he went to go find her. I don't know. So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver, and about a homer and a lethek of oil. That's actually less than the price of a woman. You know, these people had prices on their lives, on their value, I should say. At the end of Leviticus, we have a section where they actually put the price of someone according to the shekel, and they give like the actual monetary value of different kinds of people. Leviticus 27, starting at the beginning, the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, if anyone makes a special vow to dedicate persons to the Lord by giving equivalent values, set the value, set the value of a male between the ages of 20 and 60 at 50 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel. And if it is a female, set her value at 30 shekels. So this Gomer is actually half of that. She's half the normal value of a female her age. I mean, he also is paying him some homer and barley. But she's a woman of Gomer's age is supposed to be worth 30 shekels of silver, and Gomer is selling for 15. Then I told her, you are to live with me for many days. You must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, and I will live with you. Or I will wait for you. For the Israelites will live many days. Now this again is an example. Okay, this again is not just a random instruction given for no reason. It's intended to show us something. For the Israelites will live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or idol. Now, ephods were the clothes the priests are supposed to wear. They're not going to have any priests. They're not going to have any rulers, any legitimate rulers, no kings, no princes. They're not going to have sacrifices. They're not going to have altars. They're not going to have sacred stones. They're not going to have priests. They're not going to have idols. Afterwards, the Israelites will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They will come trembling to the Lord and to his blessings in the last days. David was the king of the house of Judah, not the house of Israel. The people of Israel never sought David the king. So we're talking about a period of time far in the future. We're talking about a period of time when the houses of Israel and the house of Judah are going to reunite seeking the king of David, the kingship coming from David's line. That's not going to be until the time of Christ. And Israel and Judah as nations never reunited. The nation that exists out there in the world today called Israel is not. It's not that. It's not a legacy of that. That's something different. The house of Israel and the house of Judah came together after the Davidic king in the days of Jesus, and the kingdom that he set up after his ministry on earth was done. That is when the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and that's been true for 2,000 years now. That is not awaiting some future fulfillment. That is not awaiting some future fulfillment down the road. That's been true since the kingdom of Jesus was set up, starting the day of Pentecost and following. So that we're not still waiting for that to happen at some later point in time.